Hello, worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. I hope you're all doing amazing today. I just want to come on, and hopefully this video comes out pretty quick. I just want to talk about one of the humbling tactics that is often used against exoticals, and I just kind of had an epiphany about this today, and I was just like, I feel like I want to share this just to see if anybody else has noticed this as well. So I will say that this is typically used, I would say on people whose like ambiguity shows up physically. So it's showing up in somebody who, you're an exotic, you're benefiting from texturism, colorism, or featureism, some sort of combination of the three. Maybe you're somebody who is multi-generationally mixed, I would say is where I see this come up a lot. Or people who are Black and have admixture that presents in their phenotype. It's so crazy that people, I'm going to use a little slang now, like a little Gen Z slang. So sorry to some of my older subscribers if you don't know what I'm about to start talking about. But people will be glazing the hell out of you for these features, these things and stuff like that, putting you on the pedestal, and then turn around and say you only have that because of slavery. Comment down below if you've heard somebody use that humbling tactic on somebody. Comment down below if it's been used on you before. Oh, well, your hair texture is only like that because of slavery. Oh yeah, well, you only have that part in your phenotype. You only look like that because of slavery. People will say that, and it's like, it's very interesting how you're basically saying that you should feel shame for being a product of some sort of inappropriate relations that happened, between your ancestors, right? That's basically what they're saying. They're saying, one, they first jump to assuming, unless you can prove right here is a love story of Black and non-Black. You have to basically defend that you're not a product of grape in the first place, if you feel like having to defend that. But people will put you on the defensive. But it's really interesting that people have this imaginary boogeyman, because let me tell you something, right? And I need y'all to follow me here. So, okay, let's say that is a fact, that every Black person with admixture that presents in their phenotype, every person who's multi-generationally mixed, every person who is, Black passing, but also, shows that they are other, that they only look like that because of slavery. Let's say that's the case. So you want me to believe, and I'm just going to talk about in America. So you want me to tell me that Black people that were enslaved for mad long, then were no longer enslaved and set free and just went on and had the healthiest of relationships. They just went on and, there were no child brides. There was no people like getting their head knocked between the washer and the dryer. They just came out of slavery and then all of a sudden went on and had these really healthy, solid relationships that we should all be modeling our lives after, right? But let's take that a step further. If you should have shame for, why are you shaming one but not shaming the other? Like, why are you trying to scapegoat the white community low-key? And to me, that's weird. Because what I come across much more often is like a white person who's because of the stain of slavery, more often you come across people who are trying not to be offensive, trying not to come off as an oppressor, trying not to XYZ, right? Versus you'll have Black people walking around brashly saying, yeah, well, insert any dusty thing ever. And it's like this excuse that they will give for being like a failure and dusty. But it's like, okay, if you're supposed to have shame about somehow being a product of something that you could not control, why would you not then keep the same energy when it comes to the Black community? Because you can sit there and go through people's family history, and you can do this very quickly with a YouTube search, quickly on X, very quickly on Threads or something like that, quickly talking to people, and you will hear the dusty, like, and I shouldn't say dusty, you will hear something that is, to me, on the same level of, like, slavery. Like, they're talking still about some sort of situation where somebody was a child bride. There was still somebody getting raped. So you'll have this with unambiguous dark-skinned Black people where it's like, okay, well, you're also a product of grape. You also are. You think, like, and it's crazy that people, like, don't see that, because this is something that I have been able to go through people's family history. You can go through your own and you will see the same thing no matter what it was. There's no need, I think, to carry the shame and the stain of being somewhere through your ancestors being a product of grape, because guess what? Yeah, you're a product of grape on your white side, and you're a product of grape on your Black side too. And on your other side, we get a clean slate when we come into this life, I will say, as far as the shame that we have to carry. I do believe in all of the, the genetics things that you carry, the generational curses, the things that are passed down as far as physical ailments that are hereditary. Same thing with, like, mental ailments and stuff like that. I even in the type of person where I believe in spiritual things being passed down and whatnot too. I totally believe in all that. But I think shame is an unnecessary thing to put on the next person for that. And I will say that if you're going to do that simply when it comes to feeling like somebody's the product of slavery, or they're the product of, grape by a non-white person, then just keep the same energy, because actually you don't know what happened. You were not in the room even when you were conceived. You actually don't know as much as you may think you know. You don't know about when you were conceived. You don't know about when your parents were conceived. You don't know about when your grandparents, your great-grandparents. You don't know how everybody was conceived, no matter what color you are. You can be blue, black, no slavery, no none of that. You can be the original people. You can be any one of these people who are a part of the diaspora and have gained your independence. And actually, that doesn't make you better than anybody else. Because unfortunately, Black people grape Black people too. Yes, there have been many a non-Black man to grape a Black woman. There have been many a white man to grape a Black woman. Many. And I don't know. I'm not the type to get down into the numbers and say one is more than the other. I can't imagine that there's a significant difference in the amount, especially when you look at so many people, when you're looking at, like, not the Black excellence community, but the Black degenerate community, is, they wear their trauma and whatnot as a badge of, like a get away with anything free card. I'm a felon because of slavery. I'm a deadbeat because of slavery. I'm, addicted to XYZ because of slavery. I'm XYZ, whatever. I'm dusky in some way. I'm a failure, basically, because of slavery. And because you can never change the past that happened, they are basically affirming that they're actually always going to be dusty, always going to be a failure. Because no matter how long ago it happened, they truly believe they have zero accountability in their own life for their actions and what takes place and whatnot. And for them, they're waiting on somebody else to basically give them the okay to be a success. If you're not successful, it's because, I'm going to say in 2026, you probably don't want to be successful. Like, you're not trying to be successful. If you're somebody who's still stuck in the mindset of, I'm where I am because of slavery, if you're blaming where you are right now in 2026 on something a long, long time ago, I'm going to say that you probably don't have the power to go forward much more, because you think that where you are right now has more to do and is a bigger result of what happened a long time ago, as opposed to being a result of things that you could actually impact in your life. You can get real with yourself and say, well, I would prefer to have been here, but I am here. And I'm here not because of slavery. I'm here because I did XYZ, because I chose not to do XYZ. Yeah, some information was not available to you, but also let's look for the ways that there was information available to you and you did not use it. You chose to do whatever. We're always going to be more empowered in saying that I have free will, saying that I have the power to say that, oh, where I'm at right now is a result of my actions and my choices, because that means that where I end up is also a result of my actions and my choices, which means that, oh, I don't have to be in poverty if I don't want to be. I don't have to be dusty if I don't want to be. I don't have to be a failure if I don't want to be. If I want to be successful, I can be. If I want to be financially literate, if I want to be financially stable, if I want to be wealthy, I can be that. If I want to be successful, I can be that. But then that creates a higher level of accountability for how you live your life day to day. Then you have to look at the past month of your life and look consistently at your actions. Are they making you dustier, or are they making you more successful? It's one or the other. But so many people, because of their inferiority complex and their addiction, I would say, to scapegoating somebody else and not taking accountability for where they're at in their life, they would much rather spend their energy going to other people and trying to say, oh, well, you should have more shame because your ancestors were raped by people who didn't look like them. And either they're saying, oh, I shouldn't have the shame because everybody who raped my ancestors looked like my ancestors. Okay, or they're in denial about the fact that that also happened. The statistics that we have today, as far as how many people are SA'd of both gender, it's how would we end up with numbers like that if we don't? I would argue probably all, and whether it is true or whether it's not. And I'm not even talking about in the most recent couple of generations. I'm just saying that it could be in anybody's line. You could be a descendant of anybody who is SA'd. And it's a very weird and very telling, humbling tactic that the unambiguous dark-skinned community will use against exoticals to basically say, like, oh, well, no, you should have more shame because, we can tell that it was non-Black people. Like, that, to me, that's weird. That basically that's showing that you pedestalize other communities and you feel like they are more powerful and that they have the power to damage, I guess a Black woman and one of our Black ancestors more, or I would say that another way to look at that would be to continue with a lack of accountability. I shouldn't have any shame and my ancestors should have no accountability because we're unambiguous, so, a Black woman's pain is not that bad if her ancestors or her descendants still come out unambiguous. That's a really weird line to draw in the sand. And I think that, we're all here to grow, but I just was thinking about that randomly today, like, because that's not a humbling tactic that I've dealt with like in a long time, but I was just thinking about that because I remember like hearing that being used against other exoticals. Well, you're a product of rape, you're a product of slavery and stuff like that. And then it's like, and I'm not even somebody who's like super duper into history or anything like that, but it's just like, I don't know, that's a weird line to draw. Like, what do you think happened to your ancestors? Like, I don't know. I just think that there's no reason to have to carry that shame. And I think that oftentimes people who are like that, it's because not only are they recognizing that society pedestalizes your phenotype, they themselves pedestalize it. And they themselves are envious. And more so, they want to make you feel bad about something that you can't change. Or I think some people are triggered when somebody doesn't want to actually look like them. I will say that's why you see that community constantly saying that people are blackfishing and things like that. When no, the majority of people who are non-black who are like maybe altering their skin tone, no, they're not trying to look like an unambiguous dark-skinned black person. No, they're not. They're trying to look like an exotical. In general, you have unambiguous people who are black and non-black, who basically majority of people want to look like an exotical. And I will say that I get it, like, obviously, but it's a really weird thing. Like, if I encounter somebody who, like, for example, if I were to think of like a non-black person who like doesn't participate in trying to look more like an exotical, like, for example, maybe they're very pale and they're not trying to gain ambiguity through you know, their skin tone, or they're not trying to like alter, maybe they have pin straight hair and they're not trying to like alter the texture or style it a certain type of way, or add a wave or add a curl, or, you know, play with their eye makeup some sort of type of, like, I'm not going to sit there and basically try to make them feel bad. I'm not going to start roasting them and clowning them for their phenotype that they just exist with, and basically say like, oh, well, the only reason that you look like that is because your ancestors were like, they had Aryan beliefs and they like wanted to keep their race clean. Like, that's a weird thing to say to people. And the only person who thinks like that 9 times out of 10, they're broke, or they're broke in some area. Because sometimes people, you're going to see brokenness in some area of their life. Some people, they're able to always keep it together in the financial department. But if you look at every other area of their life, shambles consistently. I would say a lot of people are just a bit cyclical in nature. You're figuring things out in each area of your life, just as you go and you progress and you choose to like invest into your learning and your growth. But like, that's a lot of energy to be spending out to people, like just trying to just randomly bully people and trying to humble them because you're not confident enough in yourself. That's why on this channel it is controversial, but I am in support of people just like drastically altering their appearance if they need to. Because me, I'm thankful that I'm not a person who needed to drastically alter my appearance in order for me to feel confident. But I've never also been at the same level of like hater as some people. And I will say some people, it's just like you feel like you have no hope for them. And I'm like, that's just a weird humbling tactic. And I just finally thought of that today, like just randomly, just thinking, that's odd. Like, to solely specifically feel like the only people who should feel humbled or should feel shame for whatever types of encounters or the level of consent that was present in your ancestors' intimate encounters, if your ancestors are comprised of both black and non-black, and then that presents in your phenotype. That's a really weird thing to say to someone, you know? But I want to know what you all think about that. Has that humbling tactic ever been used on you? Have you ever heard somebody try to use that against another exotical? And are you picking up what I'm saying about this logic that on both sides, likely there was some funny business, and you shouldn't have to carry that shame. You should just continue on your level up journey and leave people who are a hater in this type of way like all the way in the past. Leave them in your rear view mirror. Step over those dead bodies because they're never growing and they're just really going to try to pull you down to some insanely low level unnecessarily. So let me know down in the comments below what you think, and until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.